So we're going to talk about the literary profile, an essay that you're going to be writing for this unit. And I have assigned you to read this article, which you will do for this week by David Hood. And I'm not going to go through the entire article now because you will be reading it, but I think it's a really good breakdown of what the literary profile is and what the expectations are for it. So I just want to hone in on a couple of things. He's going to talk about the types of profiles, and you'll see here that he mentions, 1,000 words or less, or just a paragraph. Your profile is going to be about 3 pages, 3 to 4 pages. So that is the length of the profile you're looking to write. And it is also closer to the length of the model profiles that you're going to be reading. So nonetheless, you can certainly take a lot away from the different approaches to writing the profile. So before you begin writing, you're going to want to do research. And, you could certainly interview somebody famous if you are able to get in contact with somebody, well-known that you would like to profile. That is definitely, a possibility, but more likely you're going to interview and focus on somebody that somebody who has done some, amazing achievement. Even if that achievement is amazing, in your eyes only, that's fine. But you want to, look closely at a person that you already know, and you may think well, but everybody has more sides to them than meet the eye, and you want to look more closely, do more research, and use the interview to really get to know your subject. So the person that you're profiling, here are a few questions that you might ask. I definitely want you to add to these questions as you get to know the person better. And even again, and if you think you know a person really well, I'm sure there are facets, particularly an older person of his or her life, that you don't know and that you might want to investigate. And you will be reading, of course, models before you go on into your own writing. So Annie Dillard's Stunt Pilot, Charles Simich's Dinner with Uncle Boris are really good models for the literary profile, and you're gonna see from those, and I'd like you to in fact read them with a highlighter, so you see how much draws on what we've studied in terms of fictional techniques. Okay, so dialogue, setting, character building, all these things are really important to the literary profile. You're trying to capture an essential element of a person, so that's not something that can just be spelled out in a few sentences, right? Much like the memoir, the personal essay, the reason to write a profile is that you want to get to some sort of understanding or truth that lives on multiple levels. So it's not just a spelling out. And I keep coming back to that. That's, the narrative arc of a piece of creative nonfiction contains that sort of, articulable essence of a person, in this case, in the literary profile, right? It's something you can't just articulate in a few lines. This is this and that, right? That's why you draw on figurative language, you draw on all these techniques from fiction in order to create the multi-dimensions that you're going to want to create for your person. Okay. So, if you want to write about somebody who is deceased, you may, but that is going to take looking at diaries, looking at, if there is our documentation, journals, letters, Facebook profiles, or social media. But I definitely want you to be doing research. You can interview people who knew that person. That's certainly something you could do as well. And then, immersing yourself in the experience. So you're going to be observing the person, if that obviously the person is alive, and really trying to, whatever his or her their proclivities, habits, passions are, try to immerse yourself in those passions and get a sense for what those are. You will stop your research once you get enough of these details that we really feel how multidimensional this person is. Okay, so you are writing this as a narrative. And again, looking at models is definitely the way to go here. But, thinking about an inciting incident, right? So, and then taking us through, certain conflicts, setbacks that your person has, some sort of a recognition, perhaps, that person has some sort of epiphany or climax, and then, a resolution. So again, we are going to see change. We're going to see some sort of change, some sort of understanding. The person in this profile is not the same at the end of the profile as he or she, they were at the beginning. Okay. So again, much is reliant on character, on the development of dialogue, description of appearance, and dramatic action. All right. So in terms of point of view, you can play around with that, just like with anything. See what works for you, and if you want to bring yourself into the profile, you may do that. And obviously, you're going to be using he, she, they for the person you're actually interviewing. But you could have yourself in there, or you could just be focusing on that person alone. Okay, so. Facts, not fiction. And this obviously is very important in creative nonfiction. You definitely want to stick with the facts. So as much as you are giving us or drawing on what we know from, fictional techniques, from creating character and getting that dialogue in, and, really giving us setting and everything, you still have to remain with facts. Okay. And that's the tricky part here. It's not just imagination runs wild, but in terms of dialogue, maybe there's dialogue you're going to leave out. Obviously, if you have hours of interview, you're not going to put everything in there. And, you might have ellipses, or you might, go from one dialogue to another. And as long as you're capturing the essential, true, aim of that dialogue, then that's fine. But you're not putting words in a person's mouth. Okay. So again, I'm going to let you go into this article and, carefully read so that you can look at all the points that David Hood makes here. But I just want to reiterate this piece about getting at these multiple levels, okay? Because that's really what creative nonfiction is about. And sometimes I think it's too enticing to try to, kind of report what you see rather than work to get those multi-dimensions. And that's what you're after here. And again, models are really going to be your best friend in terms of giving you a sense of what we're after when we're writing this type of profile.